Joining us now is a man who's always roaming ready, dude.
Hell yeah.
I ain't never seen a guy more roaming ready than this guy at all times. He coached in, I assume, high school at some point, college, the NFL. He was my head coach. He was defensive coordinator for the Bears, the Ravens, you name it. He's been everywhere. I can't thank him enough for joining us each and every week. Can't wait to hear the insight and information he drops on us from his home in beautiful Idaho with great internet. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Us Up segment with head coach Chuck Pagano. Yeah!
Oh, yeah!
You look.
Let's go!
Hey, look how good you look. I see you rocking that NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, too. That you got back into coaching, right? Coached those college kids, coached them up a little bit?
2018, went in there and stomped the American team or the national team.
Yeah, no big deal. Either one, whichever one you were representing, fuck them all. Coach, great to see you. You look amazing. How was the weekend watching games? This is your first weekend as a retired coach, right? Watching games. Well, did you get antsy? Did you hear the national anthem? Did you want to get back out there? How was it?
It was awesome, especially with no stress. I could just sit back and pick apart everything that everybody was doing. Watch my brother's team. My little brother coaches at the Broncos, had a huge win over the New York Giants. So fired up about that. Amazing weekend of football, absolutely amazing, and so much good stuff there. But again, I miss the relationship part, the competition part of it, but it's awful nice not having that stress.
Okay, so Sunday morning I woke up and I was going to hit the anvil and I went in my backyard and the trees were blowing sideways from the wind and the flag was just straight out like this. And I was like, man, I am so thankful that I don't have to wake up on Sunday mornings, open the hotel window and try to find a flag on top of a building and seeing that thing straight out and be like, well, today's going to be terrible. Okay. I like that, those stresses, those little anxiety moments not being in your life, so much better. I don't think anybody understands what a Sunday's like whenever you're just like, I'm a fan all of a sudden, you know?
No, it clogs arteries, takes years off your life. Especially, when you'd open the blinds, and check for a flag to see what the weather was doing. And I'd get a call from Pete Ward and it'd be like, Chuck, I know it's raining and sleeting sideways, but, taxpayers, paid for that roof to be open and, Jim's going to have the roof open. I don't think it's a competitive disadvantage. Nobody does. So that's what we're doing. The other great thing about that stadium is my first home game there in preseason, 1:00 game, right? Sun's shining. It's 1,000 degrees outside and the sun's glaring down on our sideline.
Oh yeah.
And our opponents are in the shade. And I asked Johnny Scott, I said, what's going on here? I can't see. I'm blind. I can't see the field. Why are we on this side and they're in the shade? Oh, man.
Did you get an answer?
I'm telling you.
Did you get an answer? I remember you were trying to move.
Weren't
you trying to move us?
It's only 100. It's only 106 on our sideline, and we checked the temperature on our opponent's sideline, and it's 75 degrees. So we're good.
I remember.
I said, "Hey, boys, boys, hydrate up, man."
Yeah, I remember. And by the way, we had to have we had our equipment managers holding things over the bench. I mean, and the other side is literally just tossing sunflower seeds. And I remember, I think, and this might have just made its way into the locker room, and it might not have been real, but I think Chuck had asked, like, that should be our sideline. It feels like that should be our sideline over there. And then obviously there was a massive business conversation about the amount of money that's being paid to be behind our bench as opposed to the opponent's bench and this whole thing. And I think that was immediately when you knew, like, okay, being a head coach, there's some shit that you got to deal with. I mean, the pregame music, the sun, the entire situation, the roof. I mean, it is just a completely different ballgame. Let's talk about some head coaches in the NFL in this past weekend. Anything you saw that you were impressed with, like any coaching decisions from any young coaches that you thought was pretty good, or is everything you kind of expected? For instance, Urban Meyer, they got their asses beat down there by Coach Dave, and immediately afterwards, it's like, oh, he's leaving the NFL, he's going to go to college. How do you view that whole situation, and how does Urban, you think, get that narrative away from him? And if you were Urban Meyer and you were asked about this situation, would you say, no, there's no chance of me going to USC as well, knowing that there maybe is a chance, or do you think he's actually all in with the Jaguars at this point?
Well, the key there is when they asked him, in his press conference, and anytime you drop your eyes and you answer like this, and you don't look straight in there, he's totally committed to building that organization and rebuilding that program in Jacksonville. There hasn't been many guys in college football, successful coaches as successful as Urban Meyer. I mean, historically, he's got the best record ever of anybody in college football. But history tells us that a lot of those guys don't succeed in the National Football League. Nick Saban, the best of the best, the GOAT. Won't be anybody like him, win more championships. Steve Spurrier. You can go on and on and on. So he's going to have this narrative around him for as long as he's down there until he gets that thing turned around.
Why, Chuck? Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to go from college to NFL? Is it strictly because in college you can control everything? In the NFL, it's a much different ballgame. You coached in college at the U when the U was the U with a lot of personalities. You've been able to make the transition into the NFL and have success. What is the big thing you think on why some of those top college guys can't make it in the NFL from your perspective?
Well, there's a salary cap, number one.
Yeah.
Salary cap at some of those universities. I'm just kidding.
No.
I just think dealing with everything that you have to deal with at the professional level, especially the players, you can deal with college athletes probably a little bit different and communicate with those athletes a little bit different than you can maybe the professional athletes. Again, you mentioned it, Pat. There's a lot of things that are out of your control. I'm sure there's a lot of things that are out of Urban's control. You've got to be tight at the hip with your GM. You guys got to be in lockstep. The three pillars that Jim always talked about, the owner, the GM, and the head coach. They all got to be singing out of the same hymnal, all those kind of things for that thing to be successful. And there's going to be some bumps in the road.
So whenever you think about Urban Meyer being uber successful in college and coming to the NFL and maybe losing and maybe not sticking around 4 or 5 years to build that program up. Do you think about some of these teams that had high expectations and then just shit the bed week one? And how do you, we don't think Urban has any expectations in Jacksonville. Honestly, we let off with this. In Urban, we know everybody's uber competitive and everything like that, but people are like, he's not going to want to lose or whatever. It's like Jacksonville, nobody's expecting Jacksonville to be good for 3-4 years, I think, personally. Now, they probably have different expectations in the building, but I think from an NFL-wide, nobody's really expecting it. There's some teams, though, that came out and laid an egg this weekend. For instance, Green Bay Packers. We talked to Aaron Rodgers yesterday. He's very relaxed. Hey, listen, one game, we got to look forward. He can't overreact because he knows if he does, one game leads to two. What's your message to the team whenever you lay an egg like that, especially opening week? It's not easy to do that opening week, but it's a long season still, Chuck.
Yeah, no question about it. And let's Overreaction Monday, right? It's week one in the National Football League. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We shouldn't sit back and judge all these guys and say, well, shoot, Urban Meyer, he loses one game in the National Football League. He is out of here. He's going to have another meltdown. He's going to get sick. He's done. That is not happening. Aaron Rodgers, if I'm not mistaken, he's last year NFL MVP, the National Football NFL MVP, excuse me. And now all of a sudden, Aaron Rodgers can't play. What the hell? Yeah. He's exactly right. Just take a chill pill, everybody. Relax, okay? Bury the ball. You got blown out. I've been there. Take the ball, get in the backyard, get on the practice field, bury the football, burn the field. That is not us. But really, realistically, everybody was looking at, where are we? Are we this good? Are we this bad? Boom, boom, boom. Somewhere in the middle is where reality lies with all these teams. So everybody has a benchmark now, okay, where we're at, where we need to get better. Because I'm telling you, all the teams that won, those head coaches are putting, like Saban, they're putting the thumb down. We stink. We ain't that good. Quit writing all that nice shit about us because it ain't true. And all those teams that lost and got their ass kicked and they're writing all that negative shit about them, that ain't true either.
Yeah, and I think that's a fascinating thing from a coach because your job is, I have to make this group of men the best they could possibly be, no matter, because in the NFL you got turnover of roster. There's a different thing in college too, by the way. Not only salary cap's different, but you might lose half your roster literally from one year to the next, and you have to continue to build that culture, and you have to do that whole thing. I love it though, just like the reaction outside, because fans are supposed to react the way they react because they spend their entire lives pulling for a team, and then you get a chance to see them for the first time, especially with fans in the stands after this COVID thing, and they stink. It's like, oh, I hate this team. This team is the absolute worst. It's like, well, oh no, you're starting to freeze a little bit. In 4 weeks, 5 weeks, will it be a much different ball game? I think so. That whole setting the baseline thing is fascinating because that is probably how you coaches look at it. What is the meeting like the day after the game amongst the coaches without the players? Is it a very true, like, hey, this particular group didn't play that great. How do we get them better? How do those conversations go the day after the first game of the season amongst the coaches that we can't hear and nobody else really hears?
I think you just got to keep it real, and you got to be 100% with each other and say, okay, look, a lot of guys will go in and protect their guys and say, hey, such and such played really good. And then you're sitting there going, was I at the same game? Did I watch the same film? Can we go back and watch it together? Because we can analyze every play, but just be authentic and be real and say, okay, this is where we're really good. This is where we stink. This is what we have to clean up. And you have to have honest, forthright, upfront conversations about your team and about your players and where you're at. And it's up to the head coach to set the culture of that staff and of that room, that when we come in here and we evaluate, look, no one's getting fired tomorrow. We're not making any changes. We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater after 1 week. We see 4, 5, 6 weeks of this. Yeah, the heads will probably roll. There's going to be some change. It might be the head football coach, depending on what year you're in. But no, you got to get in there and you got to call it like it is.
You talked about watching film together with the other coaches. There was just a report that came out. Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins are watching film together for the first time since Kirk Cousins had joined the Minnesota Vikings with Zimmer. Zimmer, obviously a defensive coach. Kirk Cousins, obviously the quarterback on the offensive side. This comes after an offseason where Zimmer and Kirk have been on two very different sides of a very hot topic. So maybe this is them kind of mending fences there. I always assumed that the head coach and the quarterback are always on the same page. Is this anything to be alarmed about, that they haven't watched film together since 2018, or is this something that should be a conversation? In your experience, your thoughts, your idea, Chuck Pagano?
I know this, that besides, the GM head coach relationship, the most important one, you always hear this, you've heard it 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, is the relationship between the head coach and the quarterback. That is paramount. And so whether that's true or not, I find that hard to believe. Because I always tried to find the time, and we all follow Bill Belichick's model of, he spent, 1 day a week talking with Tom, watching the film, just giving his perspective, on the next opponent's defense, giving his perspective on third down, situational stuff, red area. When we get in third and 7+, the guy you need to key on is the nickel. He's going to tell the tale of the tape. If he's down low and there's somebody backing him up, expect a nickel pressure. Okay, if he backs off early, all right, and the safeties start to rotate over and he's got a little bit too much depth, expect 4 weak. So Bill set the model for all of us years and years ago. I tried to emulate that with Andrew in the quarterback room and go in there and share, the nuggets that I could share. Don't overwhelm them with it. Obviously, because of what's transpired, there was probably masks on in that meeting, I would hope. Yeah, Zim probably had one on. I'm sure Kirk had a mask on. Yeah, with that whole, deal that you talked about. We're not going to get into that. We don't have enough time to talk about that. But that relationship is very, very important.
Okay, so I always love, by the way, and the boys have some questions for you, and I can't thank you enough for joining us, Chuck. You're fucking awesome. Always have been. This is only going to get better as the season goes. I don't know how, but I always love whenever you would come into the team meeting, and you would let everybody know that you're still watching film. There would be like, you would do exactly what you just did. about some situations, like, hey, their defense does blah, 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 and then when they blah, 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 what are we going to do? And you would ask a question to somebody, and it would normally end up getting all the way back to either Darius Butler or Pops Adams or DeQuell Jackson. You would ask a couple of people who would go through the entire thing. But I always enjoyed whenever you came in and let everybody know, like, hey, I watched my fucking film too. Like, let's not get crazy in there, because you got hired as a head coach because of how good you were on the defensive side of the ball. And I think some guys, maybe, I'm not sure what Zim does. I have no idea what Zim does. But that type of brain being added to Kirk Cousins' thought is like good for everybody, I think. I'm happy to hear that you and Luck did that, because I wasn't 100% sure or not. It only made sense to me, and obviously I'm pretty pumped that you did that. Go ahead, Ty.
Chuck, I don't know if you saw Peyton and Eli on Monday night, but they were basically talking about how realistically there are no such thing as halftime adjustments, that you just don't have enough time. Do you agree with that? And how were things different in terms of like adjustments, or how you approached halftime for when you were a coordinator and when you were a head coach?
Yeah, I didn't watch that. I was watching the other ball, live feed, whatever it was, and I heard it was outstanding. We all know how brilliant and bright and funny Peyton is, and Eli is, and I heard it was phenomenal. But yeah, there's a short window. Pat can tell you, and he's probably told you a million times that, you're in and out of there. Sometimes you have the entire defense, the entire offense. Sometimes you're not. If a guy needs an IV, if a guy's getting shot up, a guy's got this, a guy's got that, whatever it is, you may not have the full complement of guys in there. 12, 13 minutes max, and it takes you 3 or 4 to get in from some of these stadiums. So there's still adjustments being made. A lot of those guys, Peyton was probably making all his own adjustments on his own with the backs and receivers and the line and things like that. But no, there's still adjustments that have to be made, because you can clearly tell, at halftime, if a team comes out, they just got throttled in the first half, and now all of a sudden the other team just can't do anything, can't piss a drop, can't get a first down. They obviously, saw something maybe in the first half they didn't see, maybe a scheme run, a gap scheme. You got pullers, you got this, you got that, and they go in and say, look, you hope you don't have a bunch of adjustments. Like if you got like 6 runs and 5 or 7 pass concepts, and you're just getting blistered all over the place, and it's bombs over Baghdad and 20-plus yard runs, you certainly don't have enough time to fix all that shit. You better just go in there and get on your hands and knees and do the prayer over again, and say a couple Hail Marys. But no, there's things that you can do, and there's enough time to make enough adjustments. Hopefully, again, you don't have too many to make.
But it's not a full over, because I think like the thought is, and sometimes it's, they change their entire scheme coming into the week at halftime. And I know Bill Belichick has a couple different games that it's noted where he had a first half strategy and then a second half strategy, and it worked to complete plan. But I think what Peyton and Eli were trying to debunk almost is like, we're not changing our entire game plan at halftime. Like maybe there's some adjustments or things like that, but that's not happening. It's nice to hear like the head coach though say Peyton was probably doing things a little bit differently than everybody else, because you're right, on the sideline his ass was on those papers, and it was, hey, we can't be doing this anymore. So by the time they got to halftime, I assume some of the guys were like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and maybe just rest for a second and get the hell out of the way there. But some of those halftimes are awesome though. Like when Vontae just retired in the middle of it from Buffalo. How about Vontae? Is that not the most legendary thing of all time? I couldn't even imagine what the head coach, especially because we know Vontae. Love Vontae. I'm a big Vontae guy. You're a massive Vontae guy. The thought of him just being like, it's a young man game, dog. I'm out. And just bailing in the middle of halftime is absolute insanity to me. That's crazy. Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, Chuck, the Cardinals absolutely beat the piss out of the Titans this weekend, and the Niners were also blowing out the Lions for a little bit, but they let them back. How do you keep your team motivated when you are blowing a team out and versus when you're getting blown out to kind of stay in the game and not just completely quit?
So I think there's enough video evidence, if you go back in history, to where you can show your team, prior to a season, in the off season. Go back to the Super Bowl. Atlanta's up 28-3. All right. New England comes back and beats their ass. We're down 28, 38, I don't know, million to Kansas City. And we come back and win 45-44. So there's enough video evidence out there that you can show your teams. Because when you're up, as head coach, you're scared to death. Don't let up. Don't let up. Keep the foot on the throat. Put your hand down their mouth, down their throat, and rip their damn heart out. All this shit. That's how we motivate them. And look, you let these sumbitches back in this game. All right, no more pizza and wings on Fridays. We're going back to all the vegan food. All right, all the healthy shit, salads, all that. And then when you're behind, you see all these miraculous comebacks. Frank Reich, we always talked about Frank Reich. He's got the two best, largest comebacks in the history of football, both in college, when he was playing in college, and the NFL, right? So anything can happen. And we know Dan Campbell, okay? And we heard it firsthand. His team, you knock us down, back up. We're going to have shit in our mouth. It may be your thigh. It may be a kneecap. I don't know, but I love Dan Campbell, and I've talked to a ton of people, and I got friends that coach for Dan Campbell. They love Dan Campbell. His team is not going to quit. And so as a head coach, you got to make sure, okay, I'm showing that pressure to my team before I go over there. And we may get up on this team, and everybody says Detroit ain't worth a damn, and it kind of looked like that for a long time in that game, 41-17. But then you start saying, okay, the head coach is telling the position guys, hey, take so-and-so out. Get this guy out. Get this guy out. We don't want to get hurt, because if you're up 41-17 and then you lose 2 or 3 starters on either side of the ball, they will fire you. So you have all those components, but then all of a sudden they come firing back at you, and then you're like, I'm on the headset talking to the coaches, hey, get that son of a bitch back in the game. These guys are coming back. I mean, they're fighting for their lives at the end of that. They're going to score and probably get a 2-point conversion. They're going to overtime.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely. The NFL is crazy.
It's hard.
That Kansas City night was awesome. Hey, that was an awesome night.
Oh.
We had an onside kick. That the whole world knew we were going to potentially do, and I checked out of it because it wasn't the look or whatever, and I felt like such a coward. I was like, we're down so much, should have went for it. And then the team, by the way, Andrew and the boys just rallying, smart play after smart play after smart play, and you just keep chopping wood, Chuck. Hey, listen, keep chopping that fucking wood, Chuck. Hey, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week. We can't wait for next Wednesday. We appreciate you so much. The internet's been fantastic. Please tell Tina we say thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Us Up Chuck, host, Coach Chuck Pagano.
Yeah, Chuck!
He's the best.
Yeah, weapon.
The best. Hey, get your hand in their mouth, down the throat, rip the fucking heart out.
Yeah.
That's really what you have to do. And then the pizza and vegan thing is so funny because they did eliminate all good food out of our building. And then Chuck was like, can we get something maybe feel good Friday? Can we get like maybe some pizza and wings on Friday? They're like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the game was starting to turn, he's like, I want to fight for your fucking pizza. You guys want that out of here or not? It's like, how do you motivate them to stay on this thing and get back in this?
Him seeing Urban Meyer's body language too in that press conference.
We all saw it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We all saw it.
Yeah.
I'm committed to building this organization.
I can't look in.
That'd be crazy.